Hey everybody, welcome to the EGG202 final project. This is going to be project A. This is going to be probably the easier of the three projects to work on for the final project. I also gave you quite a bit of skeleton code for this as well. Let me go ahead and sort of demo to you first what this project is supposed to do. Then I'll go over the details of implementation and so forth. Okay, so this is essentially going to be what you have to develop. Now, of course, it doesn't have to look exactly like this. I have this debug mode right here as well, but I'll just show you that in a second. You don't have to use a debug mode for your program, but I had this just to help me test this out. So in this game, you want to have a new game button, obviously, which will go ahead and load these cards up onto the screen. So we have this 4 rows of 5 cards, and they're all faced backwards, or face down, I guess you can say. And the way it works is in this memory game, you have to match 2 cards, and then those cards disappear from the board, and of course you win the game once all of them has been matched. Now, let's see if I can beat this, although I'm not really as sharp anymore at my age, but I'm going to try to play this game anyway. So I'm going to first click on any card. So I'm going to click on, let's try this card right there. It's showing a 4 of clubs, or sorry, it's 4 of spades actually. So I want to go ahead and find another card in this board that's also a 4 of spades. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click right here. I see it's not a match, but then of course it sort of flips the 2 cards back. So you want the game to be able to sort of pause for a second so you can see if you match, and then of course then it will turn both cards over if it's not a match. Let's keep playing and see how terribly I do this. 10 of clubs, I'm sorry, 10 of spades, ace of spades, okay. Oh, so this is ace right there. So of course I'm going to click on this ace right here to get this ace, and you can see that now they match, so they disappear off the board. Okay, let's keep playing. So I have a 2 of spades, 9 of spades. And you can see that they both kind of sort of pause for a little bit. They actually show the both cards before they sort of turn them over. And in fact, as both cards are being displayed, I can't click on any card in the meantime because it disables the cards while they're both being displayed. So I'll go over the actual coding details in a little bit. Okay, king of spades. Oh, 9. I think I've seen a 9 earlier. No, okay, it wasn't there. There it was. Okay, cool. So I'm going to click on this 9 and that 9. Of course, they'll disappear off the board, so I got that correct. Jack. This is a 3. Okay. 10. This is a 2. Okay, now I'm kind of being random here. But I thought I saw a jack earlier. Oh, that was a king. Wait, I know I'm missing some, but I'm really terrible at this. I think I got these two. Okay, cool. All right. 2 and this is a 10. Where was a 10 earlier? There it was. Okay, cool. Got those two. Actually, I'm not doing too bad in this demonstration so far. I'm not doing terrible. I've done worse at this in the past, so I'm actually not too upset here. I think I remember seeing a jack right here. Cool. Okay, so so far I'm getting there. Wait, hold on, it was a 2 over here, that was a 3. Okay, that's 4. No, I'm just like randomly trying out different cards. Of course, you can sort of jump to later part of this video. This is getting kind of boring, or you can watch yourself being entertained by me failing terribly at this. Okay, I got that. Okay, so far so good. Okay, got these. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm not doing too bad. Wait, I think I remember seeing a 4 somewhere. No, it was over here, I think. No, I think that was 2 and 2. Yep. Okay. So I'm not doing too bad. Okay, I think I remember this is a 5 was over here, and there we go. 4 and 4 at the very end. I win the game. So there we are. You win. Great. So in this version of the game that I wrote, which you don't have to necessarily do, I have a debug mode, which is easier for testing purposes. So I click on debug, then I hit new game, and it's going to arrange the cards in a way where it's easier to test this game out. So of course 2 and 2 is right there, and so forth. It's just mostly designed to help me test. So of course you don't have to do that, but it is nice for testing purposes. So anyway, again, like I'm saying, when you click on a card, it displays, and I click on a second card, then I can click anywhere else on this board, and it's not going to turn any cards over in the meantime. So anyway, I think the most important part would be just simply arrange the cards on this board and be able to have several set of arrays. So you have to have several, like you're going to have maybe a couple of two-dimensional arrays that all store data on each card. So first you'll have a picture box array, an integer array to sort of map a card sort of face to an ID. And of course, you want to have a Boolean that tells you which cards are currently turned over. So anyway, let's go ahead and just get to the actual details of it. But this is a demonstration of how this game is supposed to be played out. Let's get to the actual PDF and go into the actual details of this next. All right, so we're going to go over the coding, sort of the overview of the code for this project. So you're going to have a set of two-dimensional arrays. Each of these arrays will work kind of together to sort of maintain or to be able to store some info on each card on the form. So let's look at this array right here, this cards array. So we're going to have a two-dimensional array of picture boxes. So let me show you the actual form of this game, at least how I designed the form. We have several sets of picture box objects. So in this one, as you can see here, I gave it the name pbox11. Now, probably in your case, I would suggest using a very simple name. I would just maybe call this P00, then P01, P02, and so forth. So you want to, of course, give it the name P for picture box, and the last two numbers are going to be coordinates in the array of that cards array. So what you want is, in this array, so cards 00, you wanted to actually have the address of this picture box P00. And in cards 01, you want to have that refer to this picture box P01, and so forth. And then this card ID, this is going to be interesting. So this is going to be mostly used to denote what card is going to be stored or displayed, at, let's say, at the picture box 00 and so forth. So you have to use this so let's say, for example, you're going to have 10 different type of cards, because in this view right here, we have 20 picture boxes, and we have to have 2 of each card. So actually you're going to have 10 different cards, and they're going to be doubled, so that way you can actually do a matching game. So let's say, for example, if let's say this card ID 00 contains the number 1, and if user clicks on this card, I want them to display the 2 of spades. And let's say, for example, like right over here, if let's say P01 contains the number 10, then I want to display the ace of spades in this card, in this picture box, once I click on this, which will turn the card over. So that card ID is going to tell us a number, and that number will tell you what card you want to display in that spot. This is going to be mostly needed when you have to compare. When the user turns over 2 cards, you use that card ID to verify if the 2 cards the user turned over are the same or different. Then of course, card turned, that's going to tell you if that card has been turned. So in this one, I believe, if it's false, then the card has not been turned, and if it's true, the card has been turned. So if I clicked on the card, let's say card 00 or picture box 00, if it contains a false, that means that card has not been turned yet. If it contains true, it has been turned. The whole purpose of this is we don't want to click on the same card twice and have it activate any sort of function. Then of course, player turn. I guess this is because when you play an Emery game, as I showed you a second ago, you have your first move and second move. So the first move, you turn a card over initially. In the second move, you turn a second card over, then you try to match that to the previously turned card. So essentially, you have kind of part 1, part 2 to each move. So I guess the Boolean or player turn, I guess if it's true, it's the first turn, and if it's false, it's the second turn, or vice versa. So you may want to have other variables you're going to have to use possibly, but these are the more important ones. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go into the actual skeleton code and actually a description of all of these events you're going to have to code for this game. Okay, so for the form load, this is going to be where you set up all of your data structures, all your arrays. So for each of these arrays, cards, card ID, and card turned, I just allocate an array to each of them. This is the C# way of doing it. Very similar in a sense to C++ with dynamic arrays, except it's not dynamic, just that everything's referenced in C#, just like Java. So this simply allocates the 3 arrays. That's all. So that's kind of given to you. So of course, use this as needed, or not as needed, but just use that code. And now what I want to do in this loop right here, I want to set every element of that. So this cards array right here, this has to sort of have the reference to each element on the in the form. So this for loop does the following. It's going to get, so assuming that you labeled each picture box with the letter P and then 2 indices, so P00, P01, P02, like I said a second or in a previous take or the last take of this video, I basically said that just make sure you label your picture boxes accordingly. So you can just use P00, and this is going to get the address of that picture box and store the address into cards 00. And then of course, if let's say your other card or other picture box is labeled P01, it will load that P01 reference into card 01. That's all we're doing essentially here. And then we're going to set the size mode because we want to allow the card to be able to stretch, or a picture can stretch, as in it's able to scale the picture onto the picture box. This is going to allow that, this statement right here. And then this is actually a shortcut. So I think in the lab for tic-tac-toe, you had to manually go to the editor and sort of have it where every click event calls a function. This is actually a simpler way. I'm adding this function clicked on card. I'm going to add this to every card's click event. So that way, when I click on a card, it's going to call the function clicked on card. So this sets up your arrays. So now you're going to be able to update the card on your form using this cards array. So if I say card 0, dot image equals some image, it will display the image onto that P00 card on your form. Pretty nifty. Now, of course, if you have other variables in your class or in your file, of course you can initialize them here as well. This is just, I'm highlighting the more important parts. You definitely have to, initialize in your program. So now, here's our new game button, which I showed earlier. So in this button, remember, when you click on this, the game starts. So I want to have this button now disabled because I don't want you to be able to click on new game again and again while the game is in progress. So this for loop right here is going to essentially display a red back for every single card on your form. So every card will show a red back. Now, here's what you have to actually do. You have to get the file path, because red back is a PNG file in that cards folder that I'm going to provide in this lab, but you need to be able to get the actual file path. Let me go ahead and show you this. So, let me see, I think I'm here. So, okay, so memory game. I actually have my folder, I have a memory game right here. I have this cards folder actually right here. It has all of the cards you're going to need. Now the thing is that, well, if you just say cards.png, it's not going to work. But on Windows, if you open up the folder, you click over here, you can copy and paste this entire path. It's going to be the global path, from the C drive. So it's going to, C users and all that. So you want to copy this to a string. And of course, if I want to be able to display, let's say a red back, which is right here, or you can use purple back or blue or gray or green, whatever. It's all up to you. I use red for mine, but it's up to you which one you use. So the idea is you have to concatenate a slash, a forward slash, or is that a backward slash or a forward slash? I guess it's this slash you can see right there. You have to concatenate that slash symbol. And then redback.png, that's going to be the file path as to where this image is located. So So you have to, of course, use that. So I'll let you kind of, work with that. But that's sort of the idea, is going to display the red back to every single card on your form. So here's a very nice, nifty way of doing it. Since you have everything loaded into this array, you can easily adjust images like this. Okay. So now the next part you have to do in UGame is you're going to have to pretty much, well, for your card ID, there's 20 elements. So you're going to have 2 sets of 1 through 10, because you have to have card ID 1 in 2 different spots in your card ID array, because you have 2 copies of each card, because it's a memory game, you have to match every pair of card. So what I would suggest for this part, as a big hint, or not hint, but a big help, is I would just put down, the first 2 rows of this card ID array. I would just have it populated as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next row, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the last 2 rows, same thing, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the very last row, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I would randomly choose 2 locations in that card ID array and simply swap their IDs to sort of shuffle the cards up. And I sort of give you this. So in C#, you have a variable called rand equals new random, and then rand dot next. It's going to give you a number from 0 through 4. So you have to use that next function to get a random number. And of course, I would just suggest, get an X and Y coordinate randomly, another X and Y coordinate, and then of course swap those values in the card ID array, which will cause these cards to be shuffled up. And of course, maybe you want to set the other Boolean, like you want to set maybe every element of card turn to be false, because none of the cards have been turned initially. So of course you want to do that as well, but that's sort of, kind of not so complicated to do. So now we have the clicked on card event. So of course you have to manually write this function right here. But remember, in my form load, I actually add this event, or this function, to every click event for every card. So that way every card will call this function. So first thing I'll do is when I call the function, I'm going to typecast that sender object to a picture box object. So now card selected is going to be, it's going to have the reference of the object that called this event or function. So what you're going to have to do right now is you're going to have to extract the INJ. So if you have this card selected object, you can use the .name field to extract the name. So it's going to give you P and then 2 numbers. So you have to extract those 2 numbers into an INJ variable so you can work on this card at that position. So of course, remember, because you labeled each picture as P and then IJ, or P and 2 numbers, you can extract those 2 numbers and then you can get your INJ values. So again, right here, once you have your INJs, you simply check. If this card has already been turned over, then return, then escape, because there's no point to do anything. If it hasn't been turned over, so it's set to false, okay, set it equal to true. So that the whole purpose of doing this check right here is that we don't want to activate this event if the card was already turned over earlier. If you click on that same card again, we don't want to do anything. So now, of course, we have INJ, the coordinates of the card that was clicked on. You have to basically go ahead and go to card ID IJ, and based on that value of that card, you want to display the appropriate card in this cards IJ.image. You want to sort of use the correct one. So of course you have to use that file path that I showed you a second ago, and of course concatenate that with the card name based on what's in the card ID array. So if card ID is going to be 1, then of course you want to display 2 of spades, right? So you have to use that file path and concatenate it with 2s.png. And it's going to find that card and load that image into cards IJ. Then of course, here's like your main logic. So if it's player turn, so if it's the first move, then just simply, you have to find a way to store the coordinates of this card that was clicked. The whole point of it, I guess, is, or you don't have to store the coordinates per se, but you have to store what card was clicked on, because once you escape this event, you don't want to lose which card was clicked on originally. But there's also other ways you can do this as well. But you can, of course, store the ID or the the I and J indices of which card was clicked on right now, so you remember it. So the next time you click another card, you remember the previous card that was turned over. Now, of course, if it's the second move, so it's not the first initial play, but one card has already been turned over, you're in a second move right now, you want to make sure, I gave you this code right here, you disable all the card clicks, and then you basically await. So the idea is that you first display a card, and this is going to wait 2 seconds. So remember, when the second card is clicked, you want to display that card, but you want to pause for 2 seconds so the user can see what they have clicked on. After 2 seconds, all the cards will be enabled again. Then you have to verify if the ID of this card matches the ID of the last card you clicked on. And then if it does, then you want to set them both to invisible, which is not so hard to do because there actually is I think dot visible equals false will make them invisible, which will clear them off of the form. Now, if not the same ID, then you want to turn those 2 cards over, and then you want to flip that Boolean because of course you have this Boolean right here, player turn. So it's going to be true. After this, actually, I should have put this here into the PDF. I made a mistake here. But here, you want to actually sort of swap. So player turn equals not player turn you want to put right here to make sure that it swaps that Boolean. And for the else portion, same idea, you want to swap the Boolean as well. But anyway, that's the logic done right there. And up here, of course, if the game is over, so you have to kind of verify if the game is over now, which I'll let you kind of figure that out. Of course, you can have additional variables you can set. If it's over, display that it's over, and then re-enable that button, new game button, to be enableable, clickable again. So I think I just forgot to only put the code here. You have to flip this player turn Boolean. Other than that, though, this is a complete rundown of the code. You have to sort of put in your own stuff here and there. And it's designed to make this not a very complicated, not a very tough lab, just to give you some confidence. That way, if you are still new to programming, this should give you a lot of help in terms of how to set this up. So you have to copy this code, fill in some of the blanks in here, and of course you have to create your UI, but that's really not it's more of a busy work, but not a very complicated, work right there. So anyway, I hope this video did sort of help you with this lab. So I guess, happy coding, and until next time.